If you saw me that day, you probably would have thought I was running from the police. And honestly, I was terrified they were coming for me. But you would have been wrong about why, because long before that day, I had already learned what it felt like to be judged before I ever opened my mouth. They saw my skin, they saw my uniform, and they decided they already knew who I was. But somehow, the same woman they couldn't even trust to touch a coffee mug ended up standing in the middle of their boardroom. And when I told them their numbers were wrong, they laughed. They didn't ask how I knew. They asked what someone like me could possibly know. But those weren't the only people who had questions about me, because later that same day, 2 police officers saw me. One of them called out to me. I didn't stop. He called again. And that's when I realized he already knew something about me. And that's where my story really begins. Before we continue, tell me something. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments. And if you enjoy stories filled with betrayal, secrets, and unexpected twists, subscribe now. We have more stories coming this week. Now, let's get back to the story. 3 weeks before my visa expired, the man who promised to marry me stopped answering my calls. His name was Ethan. He was the person who had told me everything would be fine. We would get married. He would help me secure my visa. We would build a life together. I believed him. So when his calls stopped coming, I didn't just lose my fiancé. I lost the plan I had built my entire future around. I had 21 days left and almost no money. That was how I ended up cleaning offices in a corporate building where people looked at me differently the moment they saw my face. I noticed it on my first day. A woman watched me wipe down her desk, then immediately picked up everything I'd touched. She looked at my hands, then at me. "Don't touch my things again." I knew what she meant. She didn't have to say the word. I'd heard that kind of silence before, the kind that tells you exactly what someone thinks about you because of the color of your skin. I looked at her. Okay. Then I kept cleaning. I wasn't there to change anyone's mind. I was there to make money. That was all. A few minutes later, another employee walked past me, stopped, and looked at my cleaning cart. Then he looked at me. "You people really do work everywhere, huh?" His friend laughed. I didn't. I had rent to pay, a visa that was expiring, and a fiancé who had suddenly disappeared, so I kept working. Later that morning, I was cleaning a conference room when a white executive walked in and saw me holding a glass he'd left behind. His expression changed immediately. "Put that down." I did. He picked it up himself. Then he wiped it with a napkin. I stood there quietly. He glanced at me again. "Do you even speak English?" I looked directly at him. "Yes." He seemed surprised. I smiled. "Very well." Then I went back to cleaning. That was the part nobody understood about me. I wasn't accepting their insults because I believed them. I was accepting them because I needed the paycheck more than I needed to win an argument. Every insult had a price. Every humiliation had a price, and I was willing to pay it. For now. But there was one thing I couldn't ignore. Police. Whenever I saw an officer near the building, something inside me changed. I'd look down, turn away, pretend I was suddenly busy, even when the officer wasn't looking at me. I knew how it looked. But when your entire future depends on documents you don't have, even a police uniform can feel like a warning. Then one afternoon, I walked out of the building and saw 2 officers coming straight toward me. One of them looked at me, then looked again. My heart dropped. I stopped walking. The officer kept coming, and all I could think was, this is it. The 2 officers kept walking toward me. I had seen that look before, not from them, from people like me. People who learn to read a police uniform before they learn to trust one. I knew what could happen if they asked for my identification. A simple question could become a search. A search could become a detention. And if they discovered that my visa was close to expiring and I had no husband beside me to help with the process, I could be on a plane before I even understood what was happening. Going back wasn't the worst part. The worst part was knowing that coming back might no longer be an option. I had spent months trying to build a life here. I wasn't ready to lose it in the middle of a supermarket. The officers were getting closer. One of them looked directly at me. Then he looked away. Then he looked back. That second look was enough. I stopped pretending to arrange the groceries in my basket. The taller officer walked straight toward me. "Excuse me," he said, stopping me. Yes, I responded. He looked at me for a moment. Then he said, wait. He turned slightly toward his partner. I've seen her before. His partner looked at me. Where? I don't remember yet. I wanted to ask what that meant. Instead, I waited. The officer looked at me again. What are you doing here? The question sounded harmless, but at the moment, it didn't feel harmless. Shopping, I answered. He kept looking at me. Then he said, no, I mean, what are you doing here? I didn't understand. He seemed to notice my confusion. Then his expression changed. I've seen you somewhere, he continued. I said nothing. He finally remembered. The Westbrook shelter. I knew exactly what he meant. You were outside there a few months ago. You helped an older woman who didn't have a coat. I nodded. I remember her. You gave her yours, he said. She was cold, I replied. The officer smiled. My wife worked there. That was when I understood. He wasn't looking for my papers. He was trying to remember where he'd seen me. He said she told me about you. I looked at him. What did she say? I asked. That you kept coming back. I smiled. People needed help, then I helped. The officer nodded. Then he said something quietly. Not everyone notices things like that. He and his partner walked away. I stood there for a moment. Then I continued shopping. But I couldn't stop thinking about one thing. If that officer had recognized me for something good, why had I spent so long believing that every uniform meant danger? I knew the answer, and it had a name. Ethan. Before I came to America, Ethan and I had already spent years talking about getting married. He had come ahead of me. Once everything was settled, he asked me to join him. He promised me a wedding, a home, a life together. I didn't come because I needed him to save me. I came because I loved him, and for a while, I thought he loved me too. Then he changed. I first noticed it in the little things. Shorter calls, fewer messages, plans that suddenly became inconvenient. Then he stopped talking about the wedding. I asked him about it once. He said he was tired. I asked again. He said we'd talk later. Later became days. Days became weeks. Until one night, he finally answered. Ethan, where have you been? I asked. I've been busy, he said. You haven't answered my calls. I know. He continued. You haven't asked about the wedding. I waited. No response. Then I asked, are we still getting married? No, he replied affirmatively. One word. That's all he gave me. I thought he was angry. You don't mean that. I do, he replied. You invited me here? I know. You told me we were going to build a life together. I know what I said, he admitted. His voice was different now. There was no warmth in it, no regret either. I asked, so what changed? He was quiet. Then he said, I realize this isn't what I want anymore. I didn't answer. He continued, you need to understand something, Zaraya. What? I asked. I can't build my future around someone who has nothing. I let that sit there. Then I asked, nothing. You don't have a career? You don't have money? Your visa is almost finished. Everything around you is happening. He stopped, then added, and now I'm supposed to marry you and take responsibility for all of it? I couldn't believe the man speaking to me was the same man who once stayed awake talking to me until sunrise. But Ethan, you knew all of this before I came, I said. I know. Then why did you bring me here? He didn't answer. I asked again. Ethan, why did you bring me here? This time, his answer was quieter. Because I thought I wanted the life we talked about. And now? I don't. I wanted to ask whether there was another woman. I didn't. I already knew there was something he wasn't telling me. Then he said, you should start thinking about what you're going to do next. The call ended. I sat there with the phone in my hand, not crying, not shouting, just staring at the screen. I had crossed an ocean for a man who was now telling me to figure out my own way home. The next morning, I went back to work. Nothing about the building had changed. The same people, the same looks, the same voices dropping whenever I walked past. But something inside me had changed. Before Ethan left me, I had been cleaning because I thought it was temporary. Now I was cleaning because I had no choice. So I worked harder. I stayed later. I took every extra shift they offered, and I stopped expecting anyone to be kind. Then one evening, I was cleaning the executive floor after everyone had gone home. The boardroom door was still open. There were documents scattered across the table, charts, financial reports, a contract. I wasn't interested until I saw one number. I stopped. I had seen that number before. Not at work, somewhere else. I picked up the document. read the line again. Then I heard footsteps behind me. I put it down. A man was standing at the end of the hallway, one of the senior executives. He looked at me, then at the document. "What were you doing in there?" "I was cleaning." "You shouldn't be touching those." "I wasn't." He walked toward me. Then he stopped. "You're dismissed for tonight." I nodded. "Okay." I pushed my cart toward the elevator, but as the doors closed, I looked back at the boardroom. Something about that document bothered me. I didn't know why yet. I only knew one thing. The mistake they were about to make had nothing to do with cleaning, and somehow, I had already seen it coming. The next morning, I was back on the executive floor. The document from the night before was still on my mind. Not because I wanted to know what was inside it, because I knew something about it was wrong. Around 10 that morning, the boardroom filled up. Executives walked in carrying folders and tablets. Nobody noticed me cleaning outside the glass doors. Then I heard the same voice from the night before. "We're presenting the final numbers today." Another executive answered, "And once they approve this, the contract is ours." I kept working. Then I heard someone say, "The projected loss is acceptable." I stopped. It wasn't. That was the problem. They were looking at the wrong number. I knew it immediately. I stood there for a few seconds trying to decide whether to keep walking. Then I heard the CEO ask, "Are we certain?" "Yes, yes," one of the executives replied. I looked through the glass. 6 people were sitting around that table. All of them had spent months working on the deal, and they were about to make a mistake that could cost the company millions. I knocked on the door. Everyone turned. The room went quiet. One executive frowned. "What do you want?" he asked. "I think there's a problem with the projection." He stared at me. "The projection?" I nodded. Another executive laughed. "She's the cleaner." I didn't move. "I know," I replied. "Then go clean something," he commanded. The room laughed. I looked at the CEO. He hadn't laughed. He was watching me. I pointed toward the screen. "You're calculating the loss using the current distribution cost." The executive closest to the screen interrupted. "Because that's the cost." "No," I said. "It's the reported cost." The room became quiet again. I continued. "You're assuming the supplier will keep the same rate after the contract is signed." The executive shook his head. "They will." He cut in. "They already told you they won't." He looked at the others. "How would she know that?" I didn't answer, because I couldn't explain everything. Not there. Instead, I walked toward the screen. "You've built the entire proposal around one assumption." I pointed at the final column. "If that assumption changes, your profit disappears." And the CEO looked at the numbers, then at the executive beside him. "Is she right?" The executive hesitated. "We'd need to check." "Check it," the CEO said. The room changed instantly. Laptops opened, numbers started moving across the screen. Nobody spoke. Then one of the executives looked up. His face had changed. "She's right." The CEO leaned forward. "How much?" "More than we thought." "How much?" the CEO requested again. The executive swallowed. "Several million." Nobody laughed anymore. The CEO looked at me. "Where did you learn this?" I paused. "School," I said. "What school?" he asked. I didn't answer immediately. He waited. I simply said, "I studied it." One of the executives scoffed. "So now the cleaning staff is advising the board?" I looked at him. "No." I pointed at the screen. "I'm telling you what your numbers are saying." The CEO stared at the projection again. Then he said, "Run her model." The executive looked uncomfortable. "Sir, run it." He cut him off. They did. The results were even better than expected. The CEO leaned back. For the first time since I had entered that room, someone looked at me without seeing my uniform first. He looked at the numbers, then at me. "What's your name?" "Zariah," I answered. He repeated it quietly. "Zariah?" Then he looked around the table. Everyone out. The executives began gathering their things. I started to leave too. "Not you," the CEO said. I stopped. He waited until the room was empty. Then he looked at me. "You've been cleaning this building for how long?" I was a little confused, then replied, "Long enough." That wasn't my question. I looked at him. 6 months. He nodded. 6 months. Then he looked back at the proposal. "You've been watching us this entire time, haven't you?" I didn't answer, because the truth was, I had. But there was another reason I knew those numbers, and I wasn't ready to tell him. Not yet. The CEO picked up the document. To us, then he asked the question I wasn't expecting. "Zariah, what exactly were you doing before you became a cleaner?" I looked at him, and for the first time, I realized that staying invisible was no longer going to be an option. The contract went through. Not immediately. There were still negotiations, revisions, and numbers to verify, but the mistake had been caught. And the proposal I'd challenged was rebuilt around the correction I had found. Within weeks, the company secured the deal. The executives who once laughed when I spoke suddenly stopped laughing. Some started greeting me. Others started asking questions. I didn't think much of it, until I heard two of them talking outside the boardroom. "She thinks she's untouchable now," one of them said. "She won't be," the other replied. I kept walking. I didn't know what they meant. I was about to find out. That afternoon, one of the executives came looking for a file, a confidential company document. It wasn't where he expected it to be. He searched his office, then the boardroom, then the storage area. Finally, someone asked who had access to this floor. The question wasn't really a question. Everyone looked toward me. "I didn't take anything," I said. The executive stared at me and said, "Nobody accused you." But he already had. A few minutes later, security searched the cleaning area. Then they found the document. Inside my bag, I stared at it. "That isn't mine." The executive holding it looked at me. "It was in your bag." "I didn't put it there," I argued. Someone behind him laughed quietly. Another person said, "This is exactly what I was worried about." I looked around the room. Nobody wanted to believe me. Not because they had evidence, because they already had a version of me in their heads. A cleaner, a black woman, someone they had already decided was beneath them. The HR manager arrived. He didn't ask me what happened. He looked at the document, then at me, then said the word I dread so much. "You're suspended, effective immediately." I didn't steal anything. I said, "We'll deal with that later." He replied, "Later?" He nodded. "You need to leave the building. Now," he added. I looked at him. "Am I being arrested?" "No," he said. "Then why am I being treated like I committed a crime?" He didn't answer. He simply said, "Please leave." I picked up my bag. Nobody stopped me. Nobody apologized. I walked through the same lobby where I had spent months cleaning other people's messes. This time, people watched me walk out. I didn't know what would happen next. If the police became involved, my visa situation could become a much bigger problem. One accusation, one report, one mistake in a system that didn't know me, and I could lose everything. By the time I reached the bus stop, I'd already decided I wasn't going back. Maybe the job was over. Maybe my chance in America was over too. Then my phone rang. It was the company. I almost didn't answer. "Hello? Ms. Zaraya?" "Yes." "This is HR." I didn't say anything. "We need you to come back." I laughed. "Why?" I asked. "We made a mistake." I looked at the street. "A mistake?" "Yes," he responded. "You put a stolen document in my bag and call it a mistake?" "We understand." He tries to explain. "No, you don't." I cut him off. I ended the call. A few minutes later, they called again. I ignored it. Then another call came, this time a different voice. "Zaraya, this is the CEO." I stopped. "I was told what happened." I said nothing. He continued. "I want you back in the building." "I don't work there anymore." Answered. "You do." "No, I don't." I argued. "Yes, you do." His voice became firmer. "I've just been informed that someone dismissed you without my approval." I looked at the road, then responded angrily. "That's not your problem." "It became my problem the moment they accused the person who saved our contract," he replied. I didn't know what to say. Then he added, "Come back tomorrow." I hesitated. "Why?" "Because I have something to show you." The CEO replied and ended the call. The next morning, I returned. The boardroom was full. The HR manager was there, so was the executive who had accused me. The CEO walked in last. He placed the document on the table. Then he looked at the executive. "Where did you get this?" The man hesitated. "It was found in her bag." I didn't ask where it was found. The CEO's voice was calm. "I asked where you got it." The CEO looked towards security. "Check the cameras." Nobody moved. Then the CEO said, "Now." The footage was brought up, and there it was. The executive entering the cleaning area alone, opening my bag, putting the document inside. The room went silent. The CEO turned toward him. "Pack your things, sir." I said, "Pack your things." "But the contract is the reason you're still standing in this room." He pointed toward the door. "Leave." The man walked out. Then the CEO turned toward me. "I owe you an apology." I nodded. "Thank you." He looked around the table. "From today, Zaraya will no longer be working in the cleaning department." I looked at him. He continued, She'll be joining the team that handles strategic operations." Nobody spoke. Then he placed a new identification badge on the table in front of me. I looked at it. For months, my name had barely been spoken in that building. Now it was printed beneath a title I'd never imagined I'd have. The CEO looked at me. "You were never the person we thought you were." I picked up the badge, and for the first time since I arrived in America, I wasn't thinking about how to survive. I was thinking about what I could build. But there was one person who still had no idea what had happened. Ethan. And somehow, I had a feeling he was about to find out. By the time Ethan came back into my life, I had already stopped waiting for him. The company had grown faster than anyone expected. The contract we had fought so hard to secure had become one of the company's biggest successes. And somehow, the woman who once cleaned the floors outside that boardroom was now sitting inside it. I still remember the first time I stepped into my new office. Not because it was beautiful, but because I knew exactly where I had once stood. Outside, invisible, watching people make decisions I was fully capable of making myself. Now, I was one of the people making them. One afternoon, my CEO asked me to stay behind after a meeting. He closed the folder in front of him and studied me for a moment. "Naomi," he said, "I've been meaning to ask you something." I met his gaze. "Go ahead. How did you learn all of this?" I gave a small smile. "School." He let out a short laugh. "I know you went to school. I mean, how do you see numbers like this?" I leaned back in my chair. "I studied accounting." His expression shifted. "Accounting?" I nodded. "I have a degree." He slowly shook his head. "So you were never unqualified?" "No," I said simply. "Then why were you cleaning this building?" he asked. I glanced toward the window, because being qualified doesn't always mean someone will give you a chance. He didn't respond. Neither did I. There wasn't anything else to add. I had spent too many years trying to prove myself to people who had already decided who I was. I wasn't interested in doing that anymore. Then Ethan called. I almost didn't pick up, but something made me answer. "Hello?" I said. A pause, then his voice. "Naomi." My grip tightened slightly. "Ethan, I need to talk to you." "No," I said calmly. "You need to listen." Silence. "I heard about you," he said finally, softer now. "The promotion, everything." "Yes." A shaky breath. "You're incredible." I didn't respond. Then he said it, quieter than before. "I was wrong." I let the words sit between us. "About what?" I asked. A long pause. "About you," he admitted. "About us. About leaving." My voice stayed steady. "You didn't leave me, Ethan. You left who I was when I had nothing." Silence again, heavier this time. "I didn't see your worth," he said, almost breaking. "I see it now." "That's the problem," I replied softly. "You only see it now." A breath. "I miss you." I didn't respond. "I want to fix this." I closed my eyes for a moment. "You don't get to come back to a life you walked away from," I said. "Naomi, please, just one chance." My voice dropped, firm. "I gave you chances when I had nothing. You didn't stay then?" "I was scared," he admitted quickly. "I didn't know how to love you through it." "And now?" I asked. He paused. "Now I know," he said. "Now I understand what I lost." I exhaled slowly. "Then live with it," I said. Then smaller, almost desperate. "Can I at least see you?" "No," I said quickly. "Can I help you in any way?" There it was, the truth finally stripped bare. I looked at the contracts on my desk, the life I had built without him, the version of me he never believed in. "I don't need your help," I said. A broken pause. "Naomi?" My voice softened, but only slightly. "I hope you find peace, Ethan." "Don't do this," he whispered. I already did. And I ended the call. No anger, no shaking hands, just finality. Just a door that refused to reopen. That evening, I stood by the window in my office, watching the city glow beneath me. And I thought about the woman I used to be, the one who flinched at sirens, the one who scrubbed floors while people looked through her like she didn't exist, the one who believed losing Ethan meant losing her future. She had been wrong. Losing him wasn't the end. It was the beginning. And somewhere in that beginning, the company had done more than just promote me. They had taken care of everything I needed to stay. My visa, my work authorization, all the paperwork I once feared would define my limits. Handled, secured. No stress, no uncertainty, no fear of being pushed out again. For the first time, I didn't just have a job there. I had stability. I had protection. I had a future that wasn't hanging by a thread. And maybe that was the lesson I needed all along. People will judge you by your skin, by your clothes, by your job, by your bank balance. Some will decide your worth before you ever speak, but their judgment is not your identity. And sometimes, the same system that once made you feel invisible can also become the thing that finally stands behind you. Sometimes, the person everyone overlooks is the same person they eventually need. So let me ask you, if you were Naomi, would you have taken Ethan back, or would you have closed that door for good? Tell me in the comments. And if this story reminded you that someone's position doesn't define their worth, subscribe for more. Because sometimes, the person everyone looks down on is the one they end up looking up to.